Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you to all of you for joining us. We appreciate the time that you all are taking aside from your busy days and busy schedules to be here to support Allan, and we really appreciate your time. Allan will end, and he will no doubt also tell you how appreciative he is of your time. But thank you so much for everything that you all contribute in your, not only in your countries, in your areas of expertise, but also what you have contributed to Allan. So we really appreciate it. So we'll start off because we know we've got so much to discuss, lots going on, and we've got so many of us. So I won't want to waste more time. We'll start off with introductions. If each of us could take 2 minutes to introduce ourselves, that'll be great. Allan, we'd love to start with you. So would you want to start off introducing yourself? You need no
Yeah,
introduction, but it'll be lovely for those that are joining us to hear from you.
thanks, Bernadette, and it's a privilege to be among such an esteemed group of people. So, thank you all for participating, and I'd like to acknowledge the person that's not with us today, Linda Crockett from Canada, who actually made all of this possible, and it's International Workplace Bullying Awareness Week, something that was actually originally started by Dr. Gary Namey from the US, and we're lucky to have him here as well. So each of you is special to me. But I think to introduce myself, I'm a 70-year-old guy who would rather be doing something completely different at this moment. Now, I've spent 50 years of my life supporting my fellow worker, 50 years in different capacities, but always until I started Culture Safe in a voluntary capacity. So I've supported my fellow colleagues because I care about them. I've never once been interested in making money from supporting somebody or helping somebody. With the business Culture Safe, I had to be able to generate enough income to be able to afford to pay staff to help do the work. So we were successful and still are successful. So 8.5 years ago, by accident and by supporting bullied workers at the local government that I work for here in New Zealand, I got targeted because I was advocating on their behalf. I got, I guess, hassled for a period, then I was suspended, and then I was dismissed on the balance of probabilities, whatever that is. But I'd been a whistleblower. So I actually got dismissed for apparently breaching confidentiality and going public and disparaging my employer. Does that sound familiar, Gareth? So, so for standing up for people. Now, while I worked there, the last 2 years I was there, I supported 71 bullied workers. One of our union members committed suicide. Now, if anybody in this land, and I've said this to every single judge I've been before, and I've been before a lot of them, if you think you're going to take away my right to freedom of speech, which we have enshrined in Section 14 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, if you think you're going to stop me speaking publicly when we have a client who has been bullied, is distressed, and is considering suicide, and the employer is doing nothing about it, if you think I'm going to remain silent, forget it, because I'm not. And I'm not going to apologise if I call out those bad employers. And if you want, you can put me in jail, but you won't shut me up. So for 5.5 years, these organisations, supported by government-funded lawyers, have tried to shut me up. So today is another day where I'm not going to remain silent. And we all know, and I think all of you know, that abuse survives in secrecy. So speaking about it is critical. And 8.5 years ago, when Culture Safe started, there was no public awareness about workplace bullying in New Zealand. I helped get it out there. In New Zealand now, we talk about it. We provide lip service to it, but we don't address it. So thank you all, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you all.
I think it might be a good idea to go in line. So, Gaurav, Dr. Gaurav, if you want to go next, and then Patty, and we go that way, that might be easy. So we know who's next. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the panel. I really appreciate having this opportunity. I could pretty much copy what Allan has said about his introduction and his life. So I'm Gaurav. I'm actually a medical doctor. I used to work as a general practitioner. I also have a business degree. I was a Fulbright scholar to Washington D.C. In 2014, I joined the New Zealand Labour Party, and in 2017, I ran unsuccessfully. And then in 2020, I got elected as a member of Parliament to the New Zealand Parliament. I have had quite a bad sort of, it's 2 years now. Right from the beginning, when I started, the very first person who was supposed to be looking after my human resources, the relationship manager in Parliament, was the person who was involved in preventing me getting selected. And they were already a party of the Labour. They were already a member of the Labour Party. And right from day zero, before taking my oath, I raised concerns with parliamentary services, and they weren't addressed. And then, as people were hired for my office, I had people who were two staff members who were drunk at work, wouldn't show up to work, just deleted emails from constituents. Sometimes they were supposed to go out and send, put flyers in mailboxes. They would just throw them all out on the side of the road and then just go home and sleep. This is all sorts of things. And I tried to seek help from parliamentary services and from the party. But instead of providing support, I was bullied by the party, the Labour Party, which is in government and led by Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. For 1.5 years, tried getting support through different channels, within parliamentary services, within the Whip's office, and then also with the Prime Minister's office. One of the things that we're repeatedly told in Parliament is not to leave a paper trail, because they don't want any Official Information Act, so things can't be tracked down. So I met up with the Prime Minister's office in person. They didn't do anything about it, so I actually ended up writing an email, which was a big no-no, but expressing my concerns. And along with me, there were many, many other MPs of the party who were also being bullied. But instead of even looking into it, the Prime Minister ended up promoting the whip, the very whip who was bullying everyone, and ended up making them a minister in the government. And then eventually, 9 months after that, I ended up having to go out in the media and wrote an article, which was quite a neutral article, basically saying that parliamentary services in New Zealand work with the various parties across the board to bully and suppress their MPs. Instead of supporting me, the Prime Minister, or starting an investigation, basically threw me under the bus, tried to sort of paint it as a mental health issue. Members of Parliament, my colleagues, were sent to my house to talk to me and basically said, well, if you plead that you've had a mental health breakdown, we can take you back into the fold of the party. And then we just sent you on leave, and then you sit in the back, and then next election you just quietly leave. Well, obviously I don't do that. And then the Prime Minister organized a meeting, a predetermined meeting, where she got the whole caucus to sit down together the day before they were going to decide on my career, and said there was going to be no predetermination, that they were going to listen to everything I had to say. Well, interestingly, one of my colleagues ended up leaking that to me, and I ended up having a 55-minute tape, which I released to the media, where the senior colleague repeatedly talks about predetermination of the meeting, and that there was something else that the Prime Minister was hiding. And that's why there's never going to be an investigation, because it's not just about bullying, there's more to it. And that's what they don't want the spotlight on. This caught the Prime Minister and obviously the party off guard, because they weren't expecting one of their other MPs to leak. As I said, there are many who are in the same situation. Anyway, I got suspended from the party with the view that if I shut up, I could come back 6 months later. I kept talking, raising concerns. I got expelled from the party. There were allegations laid against me that I was bullying my staff, which is completely not true. Where my staff tried to go in my support, the media just refused to listen. The Minister of Workplace Relationship said to me, not only will we ruin your political career, we will also ruin your medical career. So the Minister of Workplace Relations, Michael Wood, he's been calling many organizations and events and basically saying, well, you can't have this guy at your, awards, at your event ceremony. And where I had already RSVP'd, I was just told that I'm not invited. There was a bit of a backlash. They ended up inviting me, and then it was basically like, well, you go and sit at the back corner. You're not allowed to go on the stage and talk like every other member of parliament from every other party. But a lot of underhanded techniques like that. I had media organizations. Recently, the government has given $55 million to media. The same workplace relationship minister said to me, if you think media is your friend, we're going to completely turn them around against you. I had media follow me around with cameras. Most of the members of parliament live in the same hotel in Capital. I had members of two parties just come to me during dinner time while my family was there. And they were just saying, I hope you're doing okay. Within minutes, a member of the media took a photo of us. They were not even supposed to be there. They don't, stay in the hotel. And they chopped off the MP from the coalition party of the government. So they chopped off the left-leaning MP, kept the opposition MPs with me, and then ran a story that Gaurav Sharma was already talking to the opposition about his next move. And this is the hotel that MPs have been staying in 15, 20, 30 years. So underhanded techniques like that. Then they started calling my medical practices and all the practices I'd worked at and said, has there ever been an investigation? Has there ever been a complaint? The medical practices really pushed back and said, that's never been the case. But lots of underhanded techniques in doing that. And then the third step that they took was then they went through a process of trying to remove me from the party itself as just a member. Again, same problem. In the panel that we did have, there were three people. Two out of those three people were already part of my expulsion meeting. So, no natural justice. It went against the party's own rulings. They had a whole constitution ruling. 7.1 basically says they can't be a bias or perception of bias. They just said, we don't care. We're going to go through this. I had a bereavement in the family. I said to them, I need a few days to, come back to you. They just said, no, we've got our own timelines to meet. We don't care. And then I was presented a long, about 20-page report basically saying, you're going to be removed from the party. Once again, I had members of the party's governing council contact me and said, well, what's going to happen from here on now is that the Prime Minister will remove you as a member of parliament. That's really interesting as part of our democracy. The Labour government itself brought this rule last election. So they can remove you. You don't even get to sit as an independent, which I've been doing last few months. They just remove you from the parliament. But they were going to do that 6 months before the general election, which is next year, which means that there will not be a by-election at all. So I sit in the bellwether seat of the country. The party doesn't want a by-election because if they lose, then it sort of sets the, inclination for the next year. But the underhanded technique that they were going to use was to remove me within 6 months. And it's a big concern for democracy because my constituents wouldn't have a voice at all in Parliament. So preempting that, I ended up resigning 3 days ago. And, the party was obviously taken off guard. But again, it was members from within their governing council who were telling me this because they were concerned about democracy too. And a lot of people are not talking because they are worried about being silenced. Exactly what's happened to me. People say, why do other MPs not talk? Well, they don't talk because look at what happened to me in the last 2 months. So anyway, so now we've got 36 days before the election starts. It's going to be short. And the government, again, is trying to spin things. And they said, well, this guy is wasting taxpayers' money. Just 2 weeks ago, we had the council elections across the country. And we had sitting MP from the Labour Party who was running to be the mayor of the capital, was the favorite person to win. There was a lot of support. The Prime Minister was going out and endorsing this person. And the whole idea was that once they would win, they would have to be by-election in their seat. Now, 2 weeks later, they are now saying it's an expensive exercise and it's going to cost the taxpayers money. So it's just amazing that they are able to spin this. But overall, as Allan said himself as well, I could be doing medicine. I've been a Fulbright scholar. I've got an MBA from one of the top universities. I could be doing anything else in the world. But the reason I'm doing politics, it doesn't pay anymore. And I don't spend any less time than I would in medicine. The reason I'm doing this is because, I genuinely believe with politics, you can change the system. And what better place to start than, charity starts at home. So it has to be with the Labour Party and with the parliamentary services. So that's why I'm sticking along. That's why I'm going to run again in the by-election. And people keep saying, well, can you take on two big parties, as an independent? Or rather, actually, I'm starting a new party, a very centrist party that's focused on outcomes and policies. But my point is, right, I'm running to prove a point that you can't silence a common man and shut them up. Whether I win or not, my point here is that the government can't try to silence everybody. Sorry, I've taken too long a time, but that's sort of my short summary of the story. So I'm no longer a member of parliament, but I will be running for the by-election. Thank you.
No worries, Gaurav. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful for the rest of the team to actually know where you're at. So thank you for that. Patty, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll do a much shorter introduction, mainly because I'm here to support, both Allan and you. And your stories are unbelievable to me. I'm from Canada. I have a company called Global Sway, and we focus on leadership, governance, and transformation. So, aside from just the obvious reasons why this topic is important to me with governance and leadership, I've been a witness who stood up for someone, which cost me a job. I was a bullied target in a form of mobbing that impacted my home life, my marriage, my friendships, and I was also a whistleblower. So I've had 3 different incidents myself personally within organizational corporate, not government, but all of those, right, are typical and standard responses where one is discredited by a specific group of companies because it's a small world. And so your name gets out there and things begin to happen that go against your ability to earn a living. In each situation, I was left powerless with little recourse or support. And I was made out to be the problem, not my desire to help the organization. So this is why I include information about workplace bullying and psychological safety in all of the leadership and governance work that we do. It's not just about leadership and this lovely story about let's make better leaders. It's about how do we solve systemic problems. And I just can't say enough about Allan's work and what he has done and how it's impacted him, even though all of his intent has been to help. So thanks for letting me come.
Thank you, Patty. Kalyani?
So, hi everyone, I am Kalyani Pradeshi. I am from Canada as well. I'm a CPA, quantum human design specialist, multiple award-winning author, and an anti-bullying specialist focused in school bullying, where I truly feel it all starts. And it's probably the worst because kids can say things to each other that adults actually can't. And I use a technique called dissolve to empower the targets of school bullies. So the targets, the victim of bullying, which not only actually ends the bullying, but it changes the behavior of the bully unconsciously for the better without actually abusing the bully or without even having to punish the bully. And, I know how well this works because my son just started junior high school. He's been there about a month and a half, already faced 2 bullies, used this dissolve technique, and those 2 bullies not only changed their behavior for way better, but they're actually his best friends right now.
Thank you, Kalyani. And I'll just briefly tell you all who I am. I'm Bernadette Suarez, and I've been living in New Zealand for 33 years, immigrated from India. I'm pretty much involved in workplace bullying and in helping Allan, mainly just, assisting him with the stuff that he needs, because I was bullied when I came to New Zealand when I just turned 21. And in my first 2 jobs, when I was 21, 22, 23, really bullied at my first job, left that, joined the second company. And I was horrendously bullied at the second company. At that time, they didn't have that many immigrants. In 89, 1991, immigrants started coming to New Zealand in the late 90s, especially from India. So, really, they were not used to people being highly ambitious, working really hard, having really goals in life. I was young, but I was very ambitious, unashamedly ambitious. I knew what I wanted to do in life, where I was heading. And that was just a shock to people's system that I would actually verbalize it and I actually would aim for, where I wanted to be. So they needed to get rid of me in the second company because I was a threat to my 2 managers who were above me. Anyway, needless to say, the toll it takes. So it took a massive toll on me emotionally. When I finished from there, even though I won my case, got a massive compensation, was able to use all that money to go to India and have a good break, it still took a big toll on me. So I went back then to deciding that it was a great time for me to start a family. So I stayed at home for the next 12 years after that, and had my 3 wonderful kids. And then when it was time for me to go back to work, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to go back to work. But so I went back while I had my children back to university, finished my master's in business, because I realized I had, had a break from employment. I had 3 children. I was a woman. I was an immigrant. I literally had to weigh up all the odds against me. And then when I went to go back to work, realized I still couldn't get a job, because people said to me, what were you doing for 12 years? Like, as if I was doing nothing. It was the best training ground to be bringing up 3 amazing kids, but they didn't value it. So I said, to heck with this, I'm going to start my own business. So I took one of my mother-in-law's recipes and I converted that, cooked it on my stovetop, converted it to a commercial recipe, went to a big pharmaceutical company, and they took me on board, put it in 350 or 360 pharmacies overnight, and that launched my business career. And so I've been in business for the last 22 years. When my son was bullied about 5-6 years ago, I came across Allan on LinkedIn. And that's when I got in touch with Allan and decided I'd support him and help him with, things that he needs, because I'm just so passionate. I understand about it. I understand what it does to people's mental health, what it does to their careers, what it does to their self-esteem. And I'll tell you what, I have not seen a guy with so much of integrity, with works so hard, so passionate, so self-sacrificing, that I've seen in Allan. So even though some days I'm tired or I've got other things to do, I can never say no to him, because I see how he looks after his clients, and I'm totally in awe of him. So that's why I also support him to that extent. Olivia, we'll have you next.
Hi everyone, I'm Olivia Wensley. So I used to be a lawyer, and I left the legal profession because of what I was seeing in the profession, just a lot of awful behavior, a lot of sexual harassment, bullying, discrimination. So I left and I moved into a different career, working in legal tech. And when I was in my new career, I felt safe because I knew that I was never going to go back to the legal profession. So when there was some pretty shocking news about one of the biggest law firms in the country, there were 5 young interns were sexually assaulted. I was able to speak out because I knew that I was never going back. So I felt safe to share my story and share that it's happening everywhere. It's not just one firm. It's not just one person. It's actually a systemic issue within the legal profession. So that it got called at the time the Me Too movement of New Zealand when it came to law, but it also affected a lot of other professions. And after speaking out, I got tagged with the whistleblower status, but I never wanted to go back to being a lawyer. And it was really interesting because at the time everybody called me, oh, you're so brave for doing this, but it shows that there was something to be afraid of. And that is, if you blow the whistle, you get blacklisted. In the legal profession, just like Patty was saying, you get blacklisted, and it's a small profession. Everybody knows each other. So if you dare speak out against the party line, then you're done. So so it was a great thing to do because it brought about a lot of positive change. There's still huge issues, but it's just one person speaking out can make a huge difference. And I learned that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Dr. Gary?
25 years ago, my wife and I began a fledgling organization called Campaign Against Workplace Bullying in response to what happened to her as a clinical psychologist in a psychiatry clinic. And her bully, her perpetrator, was Sheila. I have to say Sheila pretty much every day. I want to remember her name. Fortunately, I've forgotten her last name, so it's good just as well. But she also was mobbed by the coworkers who then ganged up on her in support of Sheila. And by then we were both psychologists. She was a clinician. I was the social psychologist. and had a 20-year career teaching university. And we thought it was harassment, and we mistook it. Of course, it was bullying, which is entirely legal in the U.S. There are no legal prohibitions even close to ruling out bullying or anything like it here. So we started the organization because we were sure that when we were bringing the British term workplace bullying over, we were sure that in the US there would be something. There wasn't. And there's still no one that does exactly what we did and still continue to do. We listen to targets by the tens of thousands. We wrote the books. We do the research. We created a voluminous self-help website for people to get lots of free advice. We went broke twice, lost 2 houses to the cause. I had like our Australian colleague had quadruple bypass surgery. It's not easy on the pioneers, that's for sure, this cause. But I say all that to say this. Here I am 25 years later. I do a lot of legal work, expert witness work. We work with unions and the few organizations that actually want to do something about it. And I've worked very hard. And I also am now 70 at this point. But I don't work one half as hard as Allan does and did. Because as I'll describe in a bit after we're done with the introductions, he has a unique proposition in New Zealand to help in a way that I can't in the United States. And so I feel helpless in being able to rectify people's situations, either through court proceedings or education or convincing their employer to do something. But I'm very limited in terms of what I can do. And there was much more that Allan, I say all this to say, despite our position and our notoriety in the world and all the work that we've accomplished to date, I still look up to Allan, who started much later than we did, but much more intensely because of the nature of the work that he's done. And I'll also say, having listened to the thousands of target stories, each and every one of you have your unique, idiosyncratic experience, but it's as predictable as rain in winter. They do the same tricks to you that to Dr. Sharma and everything else. It doesn't matter who they are. They seem to all convene on the same set of tactics. And it's a form of abuse, isn't it? It's abusive conduct where one person or the group wants to dominate another person and try and convince them that they are worth less. And that's the heart of abuse. And that's the nature of bullying. So when people make light of it, it enrages me still to this day. But more about Allan and why we're here in a bit. But that's our story.
Thank you, Dr. Gary. Sherry?
Thank you, Bernadette, and everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry that Linda can't be here. I know she really wanted to. She's at home resting with the sunglasses. So that's great. A little bit about me, quickly. I'm a retired RCMP officer. I joined as a single mom on welfare with no education, didn't even have a car. I was with the hope of building a better career. And what happened was at my very first detachment, I understood there would be some teasing and some hazing, but I was unprepared. And nobody talked about this in training, about sexual harassment, about bullying. And I naively thought that's child's play. I'm in a professional, world recognized organization. I never even thought about being bullied. But I experienced sexual harassment at my very first detachment. I also understood very quickly how leadership at one place has a pivotal role of either allowing it to continue or ending it. And the boss I worked with just simply laughed and said, maybe I enjoy the attention. So nothing was done. And the message I hear from everyone is that you speak up and you become a target. And I obviously didn't learn that because I kept speaking up. However, during my 20 years in the RCMP and wearing that target on my back, there were times where I didn't speak up for long periods of time, and it just thinking things would be fine. Like most victims, they think it's going to go away. It never does. It only escalated to the point where I'm dealing with depression. I can't sleep. All those physical symptoms that people have with bullying. Illnesses, miscarriages, being diagnosed with PTSD. All the while, I'm watching people who have no experience in leadership roles get promoted, and the damage they do just ripples across the detachment. And then, I decided after 20 years, I've done enough. I've done my part. I can do more from the outside. And plus, I was very, very sick, PTSD. I had to get out. So I got out and I decided to heal and then switch this negative into a positive. I met Linda after I did, she contacted me after I did a TED Talk in 2015, workplace bullying. And I focused specifically on the RCMP, what it was like as a female officer in the RCMP. And I explained exactly in 15 minutes what it was like, standing on the precipice of suicide and deciding to start to take care of myself and continue to speak out. So by doing that, I started a career as a motivational speaker and then also workplace consultant. So now I help with Linda. I help people specifically who choose to stay in their work environment, because you can't change an organization. You can chip away at it, hit them in the pocketbook, and sometimes that really works. I love to see that. So Allan, I love to see when you do that. But sometimes people choose to stay and they just want to stay. They need the job like I did, single mom, whatever. But they don't want to lose themselves they don't want to lose themselves in their job and become, a basket case. So I help them develop tools and strategies so that they can go to work, do a great job, and still come home and be loving for themselves and for their family. And what I'm so happy to see, meeting Linda and working with her and her team, is to see how much things are changing. Like 10 years ago, I never heard of other people speaking up in such, with such volume and so many all over. And now I do. So I do see the changes. It's just glacier speed. And for the people who are dealing with it, suffering, it's not fast enough. So I think this is fantastic. And the more people who speak up, the more people like Allan we can support in doing what they do, I think we will make a pivotal change. It will be slow, but it's just chip, and never give up. Thank you to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. We'll go to Anindra next. He's our media guy. He was, from the media, but you're safe with him, Gaurav. He's a good guy. Anindra? Your mic is on. Your mic is off, sorry.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm having a little. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm a mainstream media journalist. I'm obviously having some issues with my connections here. I basically born in Fiji, left a beautiful tropical island to come to New Zealand after a coup d'etat. Ended up working. Cut a long story short, became an award-winning journalist, but recognized passages of what I would consider to be workplace bullying, but at the time considered it to be part of the rigging process. That's what you do to survive in the real world. However, in 2018, group of people at work were victims of bullying. You would see young journalists walk into the editor's office and come out bawling. They were crying. People had had heart attacks, strokes. So quickly, I sat down, joined a group of 5 people. Our editor from his job, he was given a cushy number, headlines in the front page, stepped down to do something. Now he was made to walk the plank, fired for bullying people and the staff. And to cut a long story short, I was a soldier. in terms of a journalist. I worked crazy hours, and then I became a terrorist, for the want of a better word, because the company saw me as someone turning against the institution and dobbing them in and threatening to put their careers on the line. I took immense pleasure in doing that. It's a side of me that I had never recognized before. Media in New Zealand is pretty dodgy, so I understand what Sharma is talking about. And lucky and lucky, I met Allan Halse through Facebook, realizing that somebody did actually represent New Zealand and was outspoken, passionate, and advocate, a great advocate for workplace bullying. I sat down, wrote a book, knocked it out during lockdown and during the pandemic, and I'm glad to be part of an illustrious group of people who are shedding light and accentuating this problem, which is often considered to be part of one's lifestyle. I'd like to say that it doesn't just break down the individual; it basically destroys your soul. I'm not a victim of bullying, but I have interviewed people in that have come across also suicide, dealing with heart strokes. So it destroys people's relationships. And I hope to be in the ground here and a cross section of people sharing experience, viewers, rather than listening to me.
Thank you, Anindra. Your sound is breaking in and out a bit because I think of your connection, but I just thought I'll let you know that. But we still got what you said. Thank you so much. Dr. Susan?
Hello, yeah, Suzanne. I'm also here in New Zealand. I could go ditto, ditto, ditto. I came here from the UK into a senior academic job, got an associate professorship, and was in the most toxic work environment I have ever experienced in my life. Mine started just because I dared to suggest that asking me to write a new course when I was already working 70 hours a week maybe wasn't appropriate. And their response was, "You're a senior member of staff, we expect more of you." But because I said no and stood up to it, I became the target, and probably stayed there way too long, naively thinking justice would be done. I could work my way through. I could give the evidence that I had, and none of that worked. And I ended up leaving broken. And unfortunately, in the last couple of years, have found myself being treated similarly within a professional community. So it doesn't stop. There is some people just think they can have what they like. So I now work as a neuroscience-based coaching counselor. I help people who are either going through or have come through bullying to try to get that sense of self back, their confidence, their self-esteem, their health. I found myself in a cardiac ward for a week after this latest incident. It's just so pervasive and devastating that I've now dedicated myself to being the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff for people when no one else will catch you. I unfortunately didn't know Allan while I was being bullied. I came across him much, much later and trained with Gary. Thank you, Gary, for the training you gave that absolutely enhances how I can support others now. But I support Allan 100% because I wish I had had him at my side when I needed him. And if I can help him be there for others into the future, then I'll do anything I can to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. That's wonderful. We'll go to Dr. Gary Namey now. And Dr. Gary Namey, if you can open up and tell, the viewers and the rest of, the people that are watching and listening as to why we're here today, and just summarize, the reasons why we're here today.
I don't use the term persecution often, and I don't use it lightly. But to understand what has happened to this good man, Allan Halse, in New Zealand, is to understand persecutory misconduct by many, many players. So let me take you through the chronology quickly. And it's really important that you understand the starting point, because all of the persecution is done by judges and ERA members who come in late to the game, not knowing the full story, and just believing the biased persecutory tone that a couple of attorneys have perpetuated and manufactured. Several of you in the room here today have spoken about lying about your narratives, not belying the truth about who you really were, totally invented from whole cloth, turning you from victim to offender in many cases and the rest. Well, so it has been with Allan. And so let me begin the story with his early years in union advocacy, and he comes by it, I think, genetically. He's a worker advocate, okay? You understand that. And that was part of his role in prior jobs. That was a job description, if you will. But when he got bounced from Hamilton and the city work, he converted to seeing a way to help workers in a much broader way, New Zealanders across the country. And though I've advised him to skip the persecution, escape it, and maybe go to Australia, where there's a more understanding environment about workplace bullying, I will tell you, frankly, I'll break a confidence here. He said, but what will the New Zealanders do? I love the New Zealanders. What will the people of this country do? So that tells you a great deal about the man. But before we deify him, let me just go through some of the stuff that he's done actually in the trenches, because he's a very pragmatic guy. What you have in New Zealand is, on paper, a marvelous opportunity for employees and employers to resolve disputes. It's called the ERA, Employment Relations Authority. And there are government appointed by the Minister of Employment Relations or Workforce Relations, one of the cabinet positions there of the ruling party. They appoint basically a bunch of lawyers, often prosecution type lawyers or defense attorney, corporate defense attorney lawyers, to become those who sit in judgment of these dispute cases. Now, doesn't that sound good? Dispute resolution. And the way it was originally crafted was to be, if you're the regular worker, even non-supervisory worker who has a dispute with your boss, you sit down with your boss in front of the ERA and you talk it out. But very quickly, the employers learned if they lawyered up, they could easily tear down the non-lawyered individual worker. So it's a tremendous power imbalance. But there was a loophole written. I think it's called Section 236. Correct, Allan? 236 in the ERA that says you, as a worker, may be represented by any individual of your choice, and we'll call that person a worker advocate. But they need not have legal training. They could be a friend. They could be a union person. Do what you choose, whoever you wish. Into this loophole rushes Allan, seeing an opportunity without a law degree, but with a fierce history, a long history of fierce advocacy, I should say, on behalf of workers. Here's a way to help and help offset the balance, because the employers are all lawyered up. And in lawyering in New Zealand, because you're not a large country, there's a group of employment lawyers that have formed their own club, the Click, an association called ELINS. And so just know that. Every employment lawyer is a member of ELINS. Okay. Now, Allan then starts plying his trade under the name of an organization he creates called Culture Safe. And he finds, and I've met them. I met them in 2018 when I was brought over to, that's where I met Bernadette, Olivia, and others, and Suzanne. I knew at that time the ERA had not a really good record for dealing with bullying cases. It's not the ideal forum. And I learned this from Allan. Nevertheless, what would happen was he would be an advocate for workers. And by now they've numbered over 1,000. He's had these cases. And then there's another entity above the ERA called the Employment Court, EC. So if if a person is not satisfied with an ERA resolution, not to their satisfaction, they can go to the EC and have it judicially reviewed. You can judicially review an ERA decision, don't you see? Now that's really important. Here's the history. Allan is damn good at what he does. He's good at gathering data. He's better than most lawyers. And here's the difference between Allan. He's driven by compassion and justice. Can't say the same for lawyers. Listen to what Olivia said about the profession. I mean, so too few, right? So as he defeats lawyers representing employers in cases, what emerges is a very thin-skinned response. And thin-skinned is used as a pejorative term to describe bullied targets all the time. Why are you so thin-skinned? But the real thin-skinned ones, the reactionary people in this situation, are those who actually could not handle challenges to their authority. They have employers have unfettered authority to harm people until and unless they are challenged in court or the ERA, or the High Court or Employment Court. Okay, you see, job-related disputes are earmarked for ERA and EC in your country. Here's the problem: he beats them up, and then a few sore loser employers, and he can tell you their names. Starting back in 2017, what happened was they had judgments rendered against them. They had lost to Allan. They had lost to a non-legal advocate who's really good in the bullying cases. Now, mind you, lawyers don't like to take bullying cases. Other non-legal advocates, even the executive director of Elin's, who is not an attorney herself, but does profess to be an advocate, claims to know bullying cases. By comparison, we know from a client of Allan's, she doesn't know even how to handle bullying cases. He is the definitive anti-bullying advocate in New Zealand. These employers, goaded by a pair of attorneys, one was named Drake. Tell me if I'm wrong. I always mess up their names. Drake and Hood. Okay. Norris Ward McKinnon for the one firm, and I forget who Drake worked for. But what these guys did as the legal representatives of these two different companies, they said, let's trap Allan. We can figure out a way to, first of all, we hate him. He beats us. So they're sore losers. Second, because they're lawyers, they want to use the law to find a way to mess with Allan. Now, Allan is not the complainant. Allan is not the client. And if an award is made or a settlement is reached, he is also involved with mediations with the third agency, MBIE. Something, business innovation and employment.
Entrepreneurship, isn't it?
I can't remember.
Ministry, Business, Innovation, Employment.
And
There you
employment.
go. So MBIE does mediations. So you've got three entities in the government: ERA, EC, MBIE. And he's involved with all. He has cases throughout. In one of the settlements, these tricky attorneys added, without Allan knowing it, his name as if he were a client, and he became a signatory to a settlement. But truthfully, he cannot be a signatory to the settlement. He's an advocate. Attorneys aren't involved with the payments or any of that stuff. That's between the claimant, the complainant, the bullied person, and the employer, former employer. Okay, so they trap him as a signatory. And then the other thing Allan did and does is he's a shameless promoter of justice. And when he sees the injustice in a case, he'll keep his mouth shut about details of a case. But if an employer like this RTB, Allan stands for RTB?
That's the Ringaru Trust Board. They run a rest home in Patara.
Yes, they run a
small town.
nonprofit home for the elderly. They're supposedly in the pro-social business. Well, whatever, rest home business. Well, what they did was they didn't clean up their act after a settlement had been won. And many more people from RTB kept coming to Allan at Culture Safe, and he heard of real and potential suicides. And there's one thing that there are many things that irritate Allan, but if there is, and you had all talked about the, and I can document for you too, the host of stress-related diseases that accompany bullying if it's not checked and stopped. So if it's carried to an extreme, unrelenting exposure, then what will happen is people are driven to despair and, yes, contemplation of suicide. It's very real. It's in the literature and that. But these are real human beings from RTB going to Allan saying, you worked on this other case, but I got to tell you, it's still bad here. And I know these people who wanted to take their lives. He would write about that on his Facebook. He was basically breaking the silence about bullying, because bullies thrive on shame and secrecy. And he was breaking the silence and talking in a very public way on social media. He did not, however, violate any terms of any agreements or any details to which he was not allowed to share publicly through any confidentiality agreement. But they accused him of it. Just like they lied about Dr. Sharma, just like they lied about Sherry and Patty and Suzanne. They lie, they lie, they lie. But they're on the legal side, don't you see? So when you have legal professionals lying and claiming that Allan had done something wrong, they were able to convince an ERA, they call them members, right?
Yep.
ERA member, in other words, the ones who sit in judgment of the cases. And her name was
Rachel Lama.
Larmer, yeah. Sorry, that's top of my head. Can't remember it all. And she agreed. She went along with what the attorney said to do, and that the head back then, the head of the ERA, the chief was called Crichton. His name was Crichton, and he agreed to levy fines and penalties and costs to punish Allan. Then another company did the same thing, again at the behest of the Drake Hood Consortium. You might want to call them a mob. You think mafia. You wonder, these guys are in cahoots. Well, they're part of Elin's. So in a way, why are they coming at Allan? And when they're interviewed in the press, why do they come at Allan? They say, we're here to protect clients, those precious workers, from unscrupulous, non-legal worker advocates. Guess what? The people don't need protecting from Allan. He's been protecting them. They need protection from the lawyers who are complaining about non-legal advocates. But Allan worked on poverty wages. He's staff or almost all principally volunteer. It's a labor of love. They didn't make money. They didn't build castles. They didn't have yachts. They did none of that stuff. The lawyers do, but not this. So what you have is the ERA being complicit with a few of the members going along with the prodding of these couple attorneys to start the attack on Allan. So now you've got a couple sets of fines and levies and penalties thrown at him. And the years roll by. He doesn't have money to pay this, but also because he's been hanging around the legal system, ERA, EC, High Court, and the MBIE, he understands from the Bill of Rights. What's your Bill of Rights called, Allan?
It's called exactly that, New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990.
There it is.
Like
that
the
act
American,
has
like
the right to justice contained within, which includes judicial review. And the employment court has as one of its functions, judicial review of ERA decisions. So now in the decisions against the financial penalty decisions against Allan, he's simply saying, let's have the employment court review it. I want my judicial review to which I'm entitled. And he never got it. And they never made that ruling. And then they let interest accrue. And they let the penalties accrue. So now he's running up a debt without ever having the right to go back and challenge. Wait a minute. Where is it written in the ERA Act that you are allowed to levy penalties against advocates? Have you fined attorneys? And if so, how large and for what? And let's see the pattern here. This is a persecutory campaign. And so the years roll by. I was aware of it when I was there in 2018 because it just started. But the pressure was mounting, and what happened was then the high court, the lawyers now start to escalate because they know the law, so they're going to use the law against this non-legal advocate who is the champion of the New Zealand workers, and they're going to say he's a bad guy and he's a debtor, and let's do these things. And it's culminated in this past year in two things that they wanted to accomplish: liquidation of his small company, Culture Safe, and bankruptcy for the company, but most cruelly, personal bankruptcy for Allan, which would preclude him from doing a lot of additional good work. And so we come to find that the hearings are scheduled, and I was tracking it very closely. And the judge who was supposed to decide, no, wait, let me stop. During this time when they're filing all these papers to attack Allan and drive him out of business and into insanity, what he is doing is he's counterfiling saying, wait a minute, ERA, I question your authority to levy fines at all. Why are you doing the financial? And two, to the court, I want judicial review to which I'm entitled. Employment court, that's an ERA member saying that these things about me, I want that reviewed. He never got the review. They all got kicked down the road. But what did move forward was the liquidation of Culture Safe, and the Drake and Hood actually were responsible for choosing the liquidation firm that came in and oversaw the liquidation, which is remarkable. That on Facebook, when Hood wrote a celebratory thing on the court day, the day that the judge said Culture Safe is liquidated, they did a thumbs up, and the liquidation firm did a thumbs up to the attorney. Well, that's the same attorney who told the court that's who you get as a liquidator. All right. So he has no assets. That's the point. Hard to bleed a turn was the phrase we use over here. But they found a way to bleed him. They're trying to bleed him. And he's never got his review. And the catch-22 is, now that they've dissolved Culture Safe, they say, you can't have a review for a company that doesn't exist anymore. Catch-22. They made that all happen. See how it's orchestrated? See how they follow the law, using the law against a worker's advocate. It's an amazing thing. Zealous lawyers, feckless agencies, and complicit judges. The judge who was supposed to preside over the liquidation hearing and the bankruptcy just opted not to show up. He stayed in Auckland, and they threw in a substitute judge for this very, very important hearing. At the bankruptcy hearing, Allan was allowed to make a presentation, and he has a recording of his presentation. But unfortunately, at the liquidation, he was not representing himself and had inadequate representation. And basically, it's become a fiscal nightmare, financial nightmare, a career nightmare, and it's a campaign of organized destruction by Drake, Hood, and Elins, using ERA members who worked for the minister, that Minister Wood that was referred to before, who himself is quite corrupt and threatened Dr. Sharma. So he has the ethics of an ant. And that, so you see that you can see these people don't take the moral high ground, but they're using the legal high ground. The last I heard, and Allan can catch you up to date, bailiffs showed up at his house unannounced to, quote, collect assets to satisfy his debt. So all I'm here to tell you is that's the long story. The ERA members didn't give a rip at looking at the original wrong that was committed. Was the lawyers entrapped Allan in a written agreement, contractual obligation for which he had no obligation. It all began with a lie and trickery by the legal folks. And I think you have been told by some high-level anonymous player, what is the phrase, Allan? This is a misdeed of...
It's a mistake in law.
A mistake of law.
Yeah, and a miscarriage of justice. And at some point, but it's not going to be in the next 3 or 4 weeks, you'll find out what we're actually doing. So what I can say is
that's the story. I just wanted you to know it's it's much more complex than I laid out. But if you don't know the origin, if you didn't know it was based on illegal trickery, and the ERA and the EC and the MBIE all going along, then you wouldn't understand. It's an injustice. Okay, Allan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gary. You could have not, summarized that better. Thank you so much. I know how much Allan looks up to you and also relies on you for your direction and your advice. So thank you so much. Allan, do you want to carry on now? And then maybe we'll go down the line like we did before. So Allan, if you go next, that'll be great.
Yeah, so thanks, Gary. And like I said to you before this show went live, Gary knows more about my case and can summarize it better than me. But he's right. And the thing that they didn't count on, and like I've realized from the beginning that I actually to win the workplace bullying fight on behalf of all bullied workers in New Zealand, I've actually got to win this fight. And what I've had is enormous support. Now, in the background, there have been people that have been supporting me, I guess, helping my mental health. So talking to me, supporting me, being there for me, throwing money in it when I need money, giving me advice. But I've now got a legal team that's tight, that's working, and I can tell everybody that's watching that we're going to flip it around. This thing's been going on for 5.5 years, and I'm not allowed to talk about what we've got up our sleeves, but I can tell you that within a month, you'll know what we've done. But I can assure you that we're going to flip the whole thing around, and I've got probably one of the smartest constitutional lawyers in the land, who's probably old and crusty like me, but has a sharp brain, and he's there supporting me because I supported his daughter at an important time of her life. So what I know is that all the people that I've supported or have been out there in the background are behind me. Now, most are too afraid to appear publicly like you all have today, but I'm a great believer that you can bring about positive change, and we haven't gone to I think the part that I haven't said yet, we haven't gone to the government and said, we're anti-you because you're not dealing with bullying. We've gone and we've said, there's a major problem in this country. You need to fix it. This is what you need to do to fix it. And if you look behind me, there's an illustration. The top one shows our current situation. That's a cliff. I know the cliff should be higher, but that's our current adversarial, unsafe method of the only option we've got to deal with bullying. And under this option, people call out for help. There's no intervention. People keep moving towards the cliff. The bullies push them off the cliff. So no intervention. there's no independent and impartial agency that the bullied worker can go to for help and to get access to a neutral, independent and impartial investigation. So you fall off the cliff. And the reason why our suicide rate's so bad, New Zealand's unique in the developed world because we don't pay workers' compensation to people who suffer psychosocial injuries from bullying. So you end up at the bottom of the cliff. You've lost your job, your career, often your relationship has broken up because of the stress that causes, and you end up on some kind of a benefit. So you go from 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 a week to $236 a week. You lose your house, you lose everything. What we're proposing is further down, and if I move out of the way, and then you can't see it that well, but this is dealing with bullying as a health and safety issue, and there's a fence at the top of the cliff. So we don't go to the ERA or the employment court. We have a neutral agency that intervenes, that triages bullied workers, and an independent and impartial person investigates and goes back to the employer and says, and it depends on the circumstances, but would go back to the employer and say, what you have done has caused harm, this is what you've got to do to fix it. So right at the beginning, in the early stages before the serious harms be caused. So these illustrations we prepared for the Education and Workforce Committee of Parliament, which is why we want you back in Parliament, Garaf. You've got to get back there because we need somebody in there, because currently there is no other sitting member of Parliament who will advocate for bullied workers. None, not one of the political parties. So we need it because fundamental changes can fix this. And so in addition to going and winning cases against bullying employers, and my small organisation won the 4 biggest payouts in history in workplace bullying cases, the 4 biggest at the ERA and Employment Court against lawyers. And the most recent one's only a month ago. And that's significant because that involved sexual harassment and bullying and psychological harm and PTSD. We presented a psychologist. They presented one to try and discredit our psychologist. We kicked their butts, right? And our client, lovely woman, Kim Ashby, was brave. She had it took 13 years from when she was first sexually harassed in 2009 until she was bullied by the same perpetrator who they made the master of the ship that she worked on in 2014. And the first day he's in the job, he called her into a disciplinary meeting. The following year, she was dismissed for incompatibility because she refused to go to sea for 3 months at a time on a ship down to the Antarctica. She refused to work with him because she believed it would be unsafe. So that was called a communication problem and incompatibility, and she was dismissed. Unbelievable. This is happening in New Zealand right now as we speak. So I worked on her case for years. She is one of the bravest women I know. But even now that we've won, the liquidator's trying to get money off her because she's going to get costs that should have gone to Culture Safe. So they are harassing her. The employer, who's been defeated over and over and again, is making her life difficult. They breached her privacy and gave her contact details to the liquidator. It's just never ending. So even when you win in this country, you don't win. She hasn't got a cent yet because they're contesting the amount. They want to deduct the year's salary that they're meant to pay her. Every day we're doing more and she's continuing to be traumatized. So I continue to speak. So today is about the right to freedom of speech. I have so much respect for all of you here because each of you are willing to be seen publicly speaking up for those millions of bullied workers around the world. And the interesting thing about bullying is it's the same everywhere you go. It has the same effect where somebody is bullied, complains, the employer creates a totally different narrative. They rebrand you, they discredit you, they retaliate against you, they blacklist you, all of those horrible things, and it causes destruction. And like the number of people that I've seen that are intelligent, articulate, well liked, that no longer have any confidence in themselves, that feel embarrassed and ashamed for something they didn't cause. And I'll only go for one more minute, Bernadette, but I want to mention the fact that we've done research from our own client base. And that research has shown that 75% of our clients female, 75% 45 years of age or older, 75% have a bachelor degree or higher. So we're talking very, very intelligent people. And then it gets worse. So 89% of our clients, when they engage our services, are suffering depression, anxiety, or PTSD. 89%. 50% have experienced suicide ideation. 9%, and this is the really frightening one, 9% of the clients we get have attempted suicide. So I deal every single day because I can't let staff, when I've got them, I can't let staff expose them to the risk of vicarious trauma from dealing with people who want to end their lives. Now, I've been nominated 4 times for New Zealander of the Year, including this year. I'm nominated by people, and it's kind of scary when you think about it, but because I've given them hope, they attribute being alive to me giving them hope. Because I'm there, standing up and fighting in the trenches for them, they have hope. And Gary, that's the reason why I don't go to Australia or I don't give up, because these people are relying on me. And now I'm going to bring Gareth Sharma in, because now you're a young man, Gareth. You need to be doing this sort of thing, and you've got a voice. So all of us have got voices, and I think that's the part that everybody forgets. That's why they want to silence us, because our voices will change the way the whole world operates. So thank you all for today. I've really, really appreciated it. And we haven't answered any questions, Bernadette.
Yeah, I know. So I'm quite aware we can't answer. I just want to say to all those that are actually on live with us, we cannot answer comments today, questions. It'll be too hard to do that and do justice to what our wonderful guests have to say. So we'll come back to you later and answer the questions, or even because we will see them, they'll come up. All the comments will come up on our feeds. So we will answer them later on. We'll go through one more round and then Allan will conclude. So we give ourselves another 2 to 3 minutes. We'll be able, it will take longer. We are already at 1 hour, 13 minutes. So I really appreciate that you all are going to spend this time with us. Thank you so much. So we'll go to Dr. now.
Can we go the opposite way around? Because I know Dr. Suzanne has to head off to a meeting as well.
Sure. Dr. Suzanne, we'll go to you next time. We'll go around the other way, and Indra can be next. And is that okay, Dr. Gaurav? Can you be with us? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Dr. Suzanne?
I'm almost in tears listening again. I know Alan's story, but listening to again, and it brings up for me is, if you're in this situation, if you are being bullied, you are up against a gigantic task to get justice. So please don't try and do it on your own. Get support, surround yourself with people outside of the workplace who can hold you socially, mentally, emotionally while you go through this, because it is tough and it will affect your healthcare. Go to people like Allan who can come and give you the advocacy, to give you the process and the how. My heart goes out to anyone who is in this situation. you know, if I can help, please do get in touch. But right now, Allan is doing such an amazing job. And the more people who can speak out and have a voice, the stronger we'll be together. Bullying exists when it's hidden and lied about, and people are not witnessed or heard or understood. If someone discloses to you, look them in the eye and say, I hear you and I believe you. Now let me stand next to you as you find a way through it. So yeah, that's my summary really, is please don't try and do it alone, because it will impact on your health.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suzanne. Thank you for that. Anindra? Anindra, do you want to go next? Oh, I don't think he's hearing us. He was having some sound issues. So we'll jump to Sherry.
Well, I'm very honored to be here and listen to everyone. This has been very emotionally charging to hear and very frustrating when I hear about a bully advocate who's helping people not kill themselves get bullied. I really just want to fly down there and kick some ass. Really, I just get so frustrated. And so if you think I'm passionate about it, absolutely. I'd be jumping around if it was great. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important when people are being bullied that they don't try and do it on their own, because you just get lost in the maze of mess. It's a puzzle palace of abuse. And so I think it's really important to have these conversations and know that you're not alone, because each of us have experienced something different and unique, but the impact on us is the same. We are damaged. We become changed. And so when you know, what you know, you can't unknow. So to take our own experiences and help other people, that is the beginning of creating some positive change. And Allan, anytime you need someone in a fist fight, I know all the pain areas. I remember my police training. Thank you for having me here instead of Linda. I'm sure she's really disappointed she can't be here. Thank you.
Yes, sure. Yeah. Olivia, should we go to you next?
Yes, I mean, I just want to say how much I admire the work that Allan does. I mean, having been through the ERA process, I represented my younger sister who was getting bullied, and I found the whole process as a lawyer really just unbelievable. Just so bad and so appalling, and just making decisions that didn't make sense, so painful and hard to go through. The amount of time and effort that got put into it just shows that the whole system is broken, because if my sister had been paying me the rates I would have charged, there's no way often that amount outweighs the award. So you go through all this time and pain, and then you just end up with nothing in the end anyway, even if you're successful. So it's so broken. And I just don't know how Allan is able to help so many people, because that's a huge amount of energy and effort. So you're literally saving lives, Allan, and I'm a huge fan.
Thank you, Olivia. And so, Dr. Gaurav, you've heard from us that how broken the system is. So we're putting a lot of our hope in you. So we're going to throw all our support behind your campaign coming up. And so you have our support completely to get you back in, because we need a minister there. We've already nominated you for our work relations minister. You'll make a fantastic work relations minister. Being a doctor, having a doctor's background, you'll understand the psychosocial harm. You'll understand workplace bullying, because you've been bullied yourself. So if you can go next, that'll be great.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to cover a couple of points that Allan had touched upon. One was around mental health, and I was just thinking back to what's been happening with me in the last 2 months. A lot of people, especially the perpetrators, while they will go and talk about mental health in a very positive way, they use that against you. So the Labour Party's recent 20-page report, when they said I should be removed from the party, I had said that they sent 2 Labour MPs to say to me that I should claim that I've got mental health breakdown, and that's why I accidentally ended up saying all these things. But when I said that, now they had to counteract it. So their report now goes on to talk about it and says that in one of your social media posts, you said, 1.5 years ago you felt suicidal, you felt like there was no hope. So guess what? That's what the MPs were saying. They were never really dictated or told to say anything. All they were highlighting was that you do have a mental health issue, and maybe you need help. So it's amazing how the perpetrators will go and change that around you, which doesn't help the situation. The next thing I was going to say is, as you guys are saying, like, keep going. And I've been asked this many times, why don't you just walk away from it? And in the last 2 months, when I've been talking to my constituents, what I'm hearing is everybody somewhere has gone through this. Somebody themselves, their spouse, their sibling, their child has gone through this. I mean, one of the craziest stories I heard was one of my constituents talking about how their 7-year-old plays soccer. And in the football club, they were part of the board, and the president and the vice president ended up removing them because, the other parent wasn't happy what team the student was in. But that little dispute, you would think, on all these scale of things, that ended up leading to the whole family being on antidepressants. And they were saying, this is a 7-year-old soccer club, and we can't have a resolution or a conversation, and everything just gets shoved to the side. So that is the reason I'm running. And another thing I'll say to you is, when I wrote those first articles, I had a former Labour MP who, of all things now, is a unionist and about all these workplace things. And she wrote very nasty messages to me, both privately and publicly. And she said, how dare you say this about the Labour Party? Shame on you, and all that sort of stuff. And why would you bring this out in the public? And what I said to her was, when you were a member of parliament, you did not speak up. And because of that, I'm here in this situation. And what I don't want is, in 10 years' time, somebody says to me that Gaurav Sharma did not speak up in 2022, and here I am going through all of this. So part of the reason that I'm suffering all of this is that people before me haven't spoken up. And that's what I'm trying to do, right? Like, it's just to make sure that there isn't another Gaurav Sharma who has to go through all of this again. And I think people have to realize I'm unemployed today. Like, I have all of this. I'm the only one who's walking away, or not walking away, but at least have suffered through all of this. So I wouldn't do this if I really didn't believe in the cause, and if I didn't believe in what I was saying. And I will continue to fight, because the message I want to send to the government, people at the highest office, is that you can't shut up a common man. And that's what's happening. When you talk to people, they're saying the Prime Minister is sending a message here to everybody, and to their bosses at every employment place, that you can be shut down by your boss, because if the Prime Minister can get away with it, then why can't every other workplace get away with it? And we're not going to let that happen. So thank you for all the work you guys are doing, and thank you, Allan, for your work. Allan, if anything, I can tell you he's a very big, I wouldn't use the word lobbyist, but he knows how to fight hard, because I've been on the other end of it, receiving his emails, and he becomes very much like, so when are we meeting? I need to talk to you about my client. And he came and saw me at one of my constituent clinic. I think it was like 9:00 at night at a pharmacy. I do my constituent clinics all around town and in different places, and trying to make them accessible. And we had a very long conversation about your clients and the work you're doing. And thank you. And that's really what we need: people who are passionate and who don't get scared if they go bankrupt, or if somebody's following them with the camera, or abusing them. All these keyboard warriors on social media. Because the day you walk away, Allan, or the day I walk away, there's going to be a lot of people who will say, well, if it's happened to these guys and they couldn't stand their ground, then it's going to happen to us too. So thank you for you, Mahi, and thank you for everyone else as well. All the work you guys have been doing across the board, and it's really good to know you guys, and and it's really good to connect as well, because sometimes I think we're also working in silos, and you feel like you're alone, but you're not. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gaurav.
Bernadette, may I just interject 1 second? Because when Dr. Sharma speaks, I think the hypocrisy of the government's position is amplified by, in December 2021, Allan got a report from the MBIE over to me, where it was an issues paper on harassment and bullying. And it contained all of the same criticisms that Olivia and Allan and I level against the ERA. The comments were there. And this was a government-funded thing. The second is the newer report, I think this year, 2022, Human Rights Commission on bullying. So they can't act as well. They do, of course, because they're lying and they're posturing. But truth be told, if there were any kind of rationality about it, the government itself knows because it has studied it in New Zealand. I'm thinking about that.
Thank you, Dr. Gary. Patty, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I think it's really important for people of any authority within an organization to understand this one thing. What we tolerate, we propagate. So when we protect perpetrators, we're supporting the cause of human trauma. But it's beyond that, right? Organizations have to understand that you think you're protecting one person in the organization, but what you're doing is you're making a statement. You're making a statement that we are going to get litigious and we're going to stand up to pretend none of this is happening. And what happens in the background then is it means you're supporting the potential for sexual harassment, bribery, corruption, misconduct, compliance breach, malfeasance, fraud. All of these things are treated the same way as bullying. If you accept and tolerate this within your organization, you are tolerating the other things. You will send a message to the bullies in your organization that that's happening. And I think globally, we're seeing a trend for deep importance in systemic reach and how we deal with organizations as we look at, trauma-informed HR workers. We take care of, governance models that support policies with not just workplace bullying and harassment training, but we need to talk about that third-party investigation, the anonymous ability to report, the ability to be able to protect the people who are whistleblowing, so that, because what they're trying to do is help you. What they're trying to do is improve the organization and let you know there is a problem. And when you fail to address one problem, you're failing to address a whole host of other problems will come as a result. That's my message. Anyway, Allan, I just love the work you're doing. Thank you so much for all you do for the people of New Zealand.
Thanks,
Thank
Patty.
you, Patty. Kalyani?
I just have a very interesting comment about the ERA and EC. And it's related to the law of unintended consequences, and they're actually showing that they're following the solve technique, which results in the law of the unintended consequences. When it comes to bullying, and the reason I specifically work with children, because it's easier to mold a child than it is to mend an adult, is because they're pliable. And the most important lesson I always teach children is unconscious confrontation, because our behaviors are dictated by our unconscious brain, which is 90% of our brain. Very powerful. So if I may give some quick pro tips here. Dr. Gaurav Sharma, you mentioned somebody had emailed you and said, how dare you do this? So an unconscious confrontation in that situation is, would it be okay if I spoke to you like that? If you're in my shoes, what would you do? Because that triggers their conscience, which lies in their unconscious brain. One of the things I always tell my teenage girls, I have a teenage daughter myself, is if anyone sends you lewd messages, images, texts online, you have two responses. Number one, does this work on other women? The guy's going to say yes. Then say, why aren't you talking to them? Number two, second option, and this is my favorite, is women of high self-esteem want to feel safe. I'm a woman of high self-esteem. Do you think what you're doing right now is making me feel safe? And that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalyani. That was really wonderful. Thank you for your contribution. Anindra, do you want to finish off? I'm aware that it's nearly 1 hour 30 minutes, so we could go on, I think, for a couple of more hours. We have so much, to talk about. I'm aware of that. So, Anindra, if you want to say something and then we let Allan wrap it up, that will be great. Thank you.
Short and crisp. Thank you. It's great to know that I have traction again. Yes, short and crisp. I see some comments here from our viewers. on media and role media plays. Media has dropped quite a bit. The profession is a wonderful profession. Lousy people run it. If a journalist has come up to you and conducted an interview and gathered information to disseminate and has somehow disappeared from the face of the earth, it's because the editors put the hard word on them. Drop it. It's not in our interest. It'll bite into our profit margins, and we'll put some of the more influential, powerful people on the wrong side. So I'm afraid the fourth estate doesn't really exist in New Zealand, and he is hoping that some strong, independent organizations will come through and provide a balance between a failing mainstream media and what is can be cowboy territory.
Thank you, Anindra. Allan, we'll let you speak, but I just want to say to both you and Dr. Gara, we are so aware with what you guys are going through currently. You're going through some of the worst, bullying that can be seen across this country. Not minimizing what others are going through, but you're in prominent positions as well, and especially Dr. Gaurav, you're in a public, arena. So we do acknowledge what you're going through. We really support you guys, and there are so many others, even the ones that do not get in touch with you or do not comment on your Facebook. There are so many people that support you. So go well and know that the truth always wins in the end, and we really wish you both the best of luck. We know there are some big things for you ahead, and we are definitely there to support you both. So thank you so much for all you do. Allan, do you want to wrap this up today? That would be really great if you wrap this up.
Yeah, thanks, Bernadette, and thank each and every one of you and everybody that's watching. Now, I kind of feel a little bit humble because I'm a country boy at heart. I was brought up in a small rural, wasn't a town. It was a collection of houses way up north in New Zealand at the top of the North Island, and my parents were dairy farmers and poor dairy farmers. So I come from a very humble background, but it's that background that gives me this sense of social justice and I guess care for your community, because I brought up in a community where people had to support each other because they were too poor, and so families helped families. People chipped in. They helped on the farm if the farmer was injured. They did things. They treated everybody like they were human beings and with respect. And I can remember getting lectured by my mum about if I was sort of crossing the line somewhere and being told, Allan, treat everybody with respect and how you'd like to be treated. And I say that often to most employers and most mediations. If people did that, it sounds really simple, treat everybody with respect and how you'd like to be treated, we wouldn't have bullying, we wouldn't have racism, we wouldn't have sexual harassment, we wouldn't have any of those things. And I think we overcomplicate things. But I guess what concerns me is that New Zealand's second worst in the developed world for workplace bullying. So that's a horrible statistic for a beautiful country that people overseas see as this land of milk and honey and this perfect place. We're not. And I think we're better to acknowledge, and I'm talking about the government and everybody in it, we're better to acknowledge we've got a problem and fix it. And there are people here, and there's 5 of us here from New Zealand alone that have dedicated a lot of time to making it better. Now, it can be better, and I always love Dr. Gary Namey because he reminds me of things I forget. That report that the government did back in 21, Gary, that report so they asked the whole of New Zealand to provide feedback about workplace bullying and what was wrong and what they'd like to see done about it. So thousands of people made submissions to Parliament. That was back in September 21. It was actually 2020. 2020, September 2020, call for submissions closed 31 March 21. 18 months ago, submissions closed. They haven't publicly released the findings from that report. So I got them because I requested them under the Official Information Act. Gary Namie's seen it. He gave a little bit of a summary about it. It confirms everything that we've been saying. Everything that Culture Safe and I've been saying has been confirmed by government research. So they don't release it. So when you get back to Parliament, Gareth, make sure you get that report and get the darn thing published. So that's a major concern. The other major concern is that Culture Safe got liquidated, potentially to be bankrupted next Tuesday, 25th of October. No one in mainstream media has written about either of those events. So our mainstream media are actually basically state-controlled. And government during COVID funded our media to the tune of $55 million, right? So our media knows that if they don't toe the line, and this is the risk that Dr. Gareth Sharma and I've got in particular, we don't have friendly, unbiased media that's going to come in and support what we're saying, which is why today is so amazing, because they haven't been able to silence us. So I think we need to continue to show the spotlight. But just to end on a happy note, because I thought I'd save it till the end, my advisors, and I have people in the background, and I mentioned I've got a legal team, and they're actually working for nothing currently to support me, and they're doing some amazing work. And I'm not allowed to talk about what we're going to be doing, but watch this space. In about 3 or 4 weeks' time is all I can tell you. But what my advisors have sworn me to silence on what we're going to do, but we're going to expose what's happened, and we're going to turn that around. That's where you can help. Gary, you asked me, send a message, how can you help? I'm going to require an affidavit from you, Gary, that helps redefine me into a nice human being, so that these people and precious people that are judges and in high places can see that I'm not this evil, nasty person that I've been portrayed to be. So you can help with that. But the good news, so that's good news, is that I've got a plan and we're going to turn it around. The other thing, and it really pains me to have to do this, but when I get off this, I'm going to be talking to somebody who's going, and this hurts me, so believe me, it hurts me, but strategically I've got to do it, because we're going to transfer $67,000 to the bullies so they can't bankrupt me on Tuesday. Now, friends and supporters have given me that $67,000. So the good news is that there are going to be a lot of very, very unhappy employers, employment lawyers, ERA members, employment court judges, all those people that thought they could shackle me so I couldn't continue. The support we've got in the background has actually turned it all around. And strategically, me paying that extortion money, which is what I call it, that blackmail money, it hurts, but I know it's going to hurt them more, because they're not going to be able to completely knock me out, so they lose again. So I'm really excited about that. Really, really excited. So thank you all. And Gareth, you and I have got to talk, because if you've got a by-election coming, by-election coming up soon, if you want my support or you want me on the platform with you, we kind of need to have a conversation. And I'm around all weekend if you want to catch up and have a coffee and a chat, and we can, because I've got a lot of resource that can help you, because we need a strong advocate in Parliament. But thank you all, and yeah.
Absolutely. And Gaurav, if you want any more support, I'm happy to drive down to Hamilton to be part of your campaign and help you with whatever you need. So,
And let me email a ballot in for you. Oh, no, that would be fraud. Sorry. But anyway, if there's a way I could vote, I would.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Yes.
thank you everyone for participating. Thank you so much for your time. I know Allan appreciates it, and thank you for all your contributions. It's just been fantastic. Allan, that is such amazing news to end up with, that, you know, you're going to clear that for now, even though I know how much you don't like to do it, and it was not even necessary to do it, but I know we know the reasons why you're doing it. So thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you to everyone out there who is on our lives, who comments, who messages Allan, who emails Allan. Thank you so much for all your support, all your love that you send, and the support that you send, the money that you've put in to support him has not gone unnoticed. So thank you everyone once again. And we should do this again. It was really enjoyable and really valuable. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
You're
you.
the most deserving man I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.